If you have ever struggled to say no, especially at work, you are not alone. Because saying yes too much could be taking up a lot of your time and effort and leaving you exhausted, even burnt out. That is not something you would want. Saying yes all the time might be a disadvantage for you at work. I've learned the hard way how to say no at work effectively. I had no option but to stop. There is a workaround, and it works really well. I'm also going to show you how actually you are saying no many times a day already. You're just not realizing it. And what we want to do is we want to become just a little bit more targeted about when we want to say no and when we want to say yes. First, I want to answer the question, why is it that we say yes to everything? Why is it we struggle to say no? If you are watching this, it could be that you're feeling guilty when you have to say no to people. You would rather inconvenience your own self than say no to somebody else. So you would sacrifice your time, your energy, even your peace, just to make space for somebody else's urgency or their expectation. And where does that come from? So we're not born to say yes to everything. In fact, we say no to a lot of things when we're tiny little humans. Have you seen a 2-year-old and how they just say no, no, no all the time? So we must learn this saying yes thing from somewhere. Looking into my own life, I found out that it was because people around me insisted that I say yes to them all the time, even when I wanted to say no. And because I was a child, I learned this behavior was what kept me safe. Because when I said no, I experienced anger, and then of course I experienced fear from that anger. So I was taught to say yes to avoid the anger. Could it be that the same thing might have happened to you? For me, it was my family environment, but for you, it could have been something different. It could have been at school, it could have been friends, it could have been a teacher. But having this natural ability, that ability to put boundaries in place, removed, was damaging to us. And so that creates this defensive mechanism, this niceness that we then present out to the world. It's just easier that way. In the world of work, that's not understood at all. The people at work do not understand that you are just being nice as a defense mechanism. They expect you to behave in a way that can be respected. And I'm sure that you want the same thing. But there's a second thing. In our minds, when this all happens, we are basically tallying up all the good things we are doing for other people and presenting that to ourselves and showing ourselves what a good person we are and how needed we are and how essential, because we have one overriding need that overrides all of the other needs that we have, and that is to feel safe. And because we behave like this, that is why they then might behave differently towards us at work and not listen to us and not be respectful and take us for granted, the very things we don't want. So it took me a really long time to figure out how to actually say no to people. I don't like saying no directly, even now, even today. So for someone like me, I had to find a workaround. I had to find a way to do a soft no. And I'm going to show you how to choose what to say yes to and what to say no to. But here's the thing, you are already saying no to some things right now. Here is how I realized this. If I choose to say yes to this thing over here, I'm naturally excluding saying yes to all of these things over here. But it's not a conscious choice. Every time I'm saying yes to some random person here in front of me, I'm saying no to my family. I'm saying no to me. The thing that really helped me to change this is to bring my choices front and center, to give myself options. The way forward is just to analyze the situation. So there aren't just 2 options. There are actually 3 options that you can work through. So a few years ago, I created this tool for myself because I really needed it. I had this one client who needed me more than most of my other clients. And whenever she contacted me, I just made myself available. I allowed her to use up more and more and more of my time. Because of all of this, I was overworking and I really was heading towards burnout. I started feeling resentful, like I was being used, like I was being taken advantage of. But that's when I realized it was me. I was allowing it. I wasn't putting a boundary in place. But then something else happened. I had another client come to me with very similar issues, very similar needs. And I was struggling because if I took her on as a client as well, in addition to this other client I had, I would have no time to help anyone else. That's when I knew something had to change. And I bought myself a book, as I usually do, a book called The Disease to Please by Dr. Harriet Breaker. So in this book, she said this: once you merely give yourself permission to say no, just to some of the people, some of the time, you will have taken the most important step towards curing your people pleasing. So kind people could say no. I just needed to give myself permission. There was an exercise she talked about in the book, and I then created a form around that exercise. So the tool forces you to assess each demand that comes your way, each request that comes your way, to determine whether you want to say yes or whether you want to say no or whether you want to give an alternative response. You consider what the consequences would be for each one of these decisions, rather than just automatically saying yes to whatever is in front of you. And yes, of course, it takes practice. So I called it the Consequence Forecaster. I created a downloadable version of this for you. You can find it in the link in the description. So the Consequence Forecaster works like this. You can answer these 3 questions with me. Question number 1. What will happen if you say yes? How will saying yes impact you on an emotional, a mental, or even a physical level? How will it impact you financially? What impact will it have on your time? Question number 2. Now, what will happen if you say no? And I don't want you to think about other people here. I want you to think about yourself when you answer this question. And look, if you cannot consider yourself at this point, best thing then to do is consider your family, your kids, maybe your partner. Whatever helps you make a healthy-minded assessment of the situation. And then the 3rd and final question. What will happen if I make a counteroffer? What is a counteroffer? It is something you don't mind doing. It is something you might even want to do, but you want to do it on your own terms, because that allows you to fulfill your promise without causing yourself any harm. But listen, please do not use this as a cop-out when you actually need to say a clear no, because that doesn't count. So these 3 questions can really help you to not feel taken advantage of. It can save you from the overwhelm, from the resentment, from the guilt even. And the more you use it, the better you get at saying no consistently. And the key here is not that you have to say no to everything or no to a lot of things. You just want to be able to say no to some things some of the time. And if being too nice at work is your pattern, you might want to watch this next video. It is all about what happens when we tie our self-worth to being liked. If you're going through something tough at work, I'm thinking of you.